What's up, guys? We're back with another Gundam Universe review, and we're jumping back over to Gundam Seed today. We're taking a look at the Freedom Gundam. Now, this, of course, comes in the standard style packaging for the Universe line. So you've got a shot of the Freedom Gundam on the front. You've got that sort of oddly shaped window to show the figure within, and then the spines have the product name as well as a product shot on the respective sides, and then the back of the box, very much like we see with figure art, shows off some of the stuff this thing comes with as well as how it moves, but it's also got a cross cell for the rest of the wave. So let's do it. Let's pull it out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Freedom Gundam from Gundam Seed. This suit, this figure is very surprising. I say that because, well, partially because I haven't watched Seed in a very, very long time. So, some of the stuff about this suit I kind of forgot about. But in the context of this line, this has been a really weird wave. So we had the Heavy Arms, which has a lot of unique designs, a lot of unique colors, really large weaponry. We've got the Exia that came after it, really large weaponry, unique design, unique parts. And then we've got this, and even after those two figures, they've kind of ramped things up a little bit, and this is probably where the majority of the budget went for this particular wave, because at least in terms of engineering, this figure is really crazy. There's a lot of stuff on this figure. It has humongous wings, it has waist-mounted railgun cannons, and it just has a lot more moving parts. There's definitely more to this figure than most Gundam Universe. Even the figures that do have wings, like the wing, they're not even close to as complicated as this. And it's not negatively complicated, it's just they move in a pretty weird and just interesting way. So let's see what this guy can do, see how it moves around. It is overwhelmingly very similar, like it's still a normal Gundam Universe figure until you get to the waist and the back. So we've got a head that can look up a little bit, not too much, but you can kick that neck back slightly because this is one of the figures that has a moving neck. You can go down a little bit. I mean, he's still sort of looking at the cockpit, but it works. You've got a little bit of bobble. You've got rotation. You do have to kind of watch those side panels around the neck. You've got your arms that go out at the shoulders. The shoulder pads, of course, are going to move up and out of the way. You've got your slight butterfly joint. It's not a true butterfly, but it works. And then you've got rotation. We've got our bicep swivel. You've got double jointed elbows, so really good range there. We've, of course, got our ball-pegged wrists, and there's nothing on the outside of these hands, so pretty good movement. I mean, they don't have tons of range, but there's nothing in the way on this. Now we're gonna forego the wings for just a second. Backwards on the torso is a little bit, forwards is a little bit. There's really not a lot of movement in the torso on this thing. That's why I said it's still very similar to a lot of Gundam Universe stuff. You've got some shimmy at the waist, but not a whole lot. And there's not really any bobble side to side. A little bit, but not much. We've got our legs that go out about this far. You are going to have to deal with the rail guns like you deal with a normal skirt piece. They are on a peg that cinches into a hole in the waist. So they do move and get up out of the way a little bit, but they still are going to be in the way. So legs go out about that far. Pretty normal for the line. They kick forward about that far before you're probably going to start pulling that skirt piece out. And then they kick backwards slightly. They do not have thigh cuts, but they do have ball pegs up there. So there is a little bit of shimmy afforded there. We've got our knees. And while they work, there is a lot of stuff in the way. So you can imagine these are just going to get in the way. There is a decent bit of range on these. Honestly, they go a little bit further back than usual. And then down at the ankles, we've got our normal ball peg with the little hinge system up inside. So it does go backwards really nice, and it goes forwards really, really well. There's a lot more movement in here than usual. And then you've got your rocker side to side, and then you can also sort of start to rotate it. It can't go all the way, obviously, but you can see there's a little bit more movement inside this area here because of the extra hinge that's up inside of that sort of cavity, which is pretty interesting. It works really well. Now, let's do these guns first. So you've got these side skirt pieces here that house the guns, and these are, of course, articulated as well. So if you know anything about this suit, you know what these do. So they pop out, and then they fold backwards also. So the back piece goes back, and then that comes forward, and then you've got the gun. So, of course, both of these do this, and then you can see it better here. Let's move that arm out of the way. So you've got the back half of the cannon, and then you've got the railgun here that sticks out the front. So there's a lot of business on the front side of this suit, but there's just as much business, if not more, on the back. So, you know, you can close this up and they all sort of peg together. And it stays on there pretty well. I've not had any true issues with it falling out or falling apart or anything like that. And then we've got our wings. So these are separate. They peg in. You have to put this together. So the wings peg into the backpack pegs into the back. So far, it's stayed on pretty well. It fell off the first time I plugged it in, but I think it might have just been in there not well enough. So these will rotate in the backpack, and then they hinge in and out. So you've got, you know, sort of normal wing movement, but then, you know, these wings are pretty crazy. So there's a gun. Of course, there's a gun in this, right? So there's a gun inside there. And then you pull all of this stuff back, and you've got this massive, massive array of wing here. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Plates upon plates upon plates, and then this big beam cannon that is housed inside the wings. So each side does this, and then you've got, you know, effectively a much larger figure as a result. I mean, this thing's about like 10 inches tall when it's all said and done. So it works really well. Like, I'm not really, you know, having any issues with it. It is cumbersome in many ways because it, you know, it's still a big thing hanging off the back of this figure. But when everything is fully extended front and back, the whole deal, there is a lot that moves on this figure, and it's just very, very different and very much more engineered in many ways than a lot of other figures in this line. Now, conversely to that, this thing isn't the most aesthetically exciting suit to me, just me personally. It's a very plain suit in many ways, mostly white with a lot of black, which is not necessarily the most normal color to see on a Gundam that's, you know, mostly white also. So you've got a very black chest and cockpit area. You've got huge V-fins on this thing with the big gold fins up top, which have nice paint on them. There's not much paint to speak of on this guy, but those little hits of metallic gold are a nice touch. This suit, to me, is really just all about how different it is to its counterpart when it comes to the Strike from Seed as well. So you've got the Strike, if you've got the exclusive, you've got the Strike Rouge as well, and then this suit, and they're just really, really different. Of course, that Strike did not get any of this extra adornment like the Freedom has gotten, but there's a lot of stuff. It's a very busy suit in many ways, especially when everything's fully extended. You know, when you've got these wings all the way out, I mean, there's really a lot going on back here. And I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely going to stand out. If you've got all of these suits on a shelf somewhere, it's definitely going to stand out because of that. But its overall design is not the most engaging to me. It looks very good, though. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad figure because of that. I'm just saying I don't really care for this design in many ways. Just from a color perspective, it's white. It's okay. But the colors here do work really well. They pop. They're very saturated. You know, a lot of molded plastic as usual. But he looks really nice. It's a very different kind of figure in many ways, especially when you've got the other figures in this wave next to it. Heavy Arms, Exia, they're just suits with big weapons. This thing has a whole mess of stuff that hangs off the front, hangs off the back, and I think it's a very different thing. So again, it's going to be aesthetically a very different kind of figure on the shelf, you know, maybe more in line with the wingsuits that we've gotten so far, but still even more robust in many ways than that. So it's a cool looking figure. I think the design is a little bit, it's a little bit plain, especially compared to some of the other stuff in this line, but it's still very Telltale Gundam. Lots of whites, lots of reds, lots of blues, and then those huge V-fins up top really draw my attention. Again, I really like the super gold metallic plastic. I love the way they incorporated the wings and the railguns into the figure because, again, despite having all of this stuff on it, it's very stable. Haven't really had any issues to speak of, and it's a very big, bulky figure, and you know, I like that kind of stuff from time to time. So this guy is going to have a lot of shelf presence, especially if you've got all this stuff kind of unfurled for the world to see. And then as far as accessories goes, this suit, well, I mean, it has a lot, honestly. Like, it still has a lot of stuff. Even though it has all of what would be considered like extra things because of all the added engineering that went into the guns and the wings, it still has more accessories than a lot of other suits. The first one I'm going to think about in particular is our wing, because the wing only got the shield and the wings and the gun. It didn't get beam sabers, which I always was very upset about. Well, not upset, but I was disappointed in. This guy gets its beam sabers, so they have been connected at all times. He has two. They're housed in the railgun sort of armature there. So you've got two beam saber hilts. We do get some hands. You get a gripping left. You get a trigger right. Kind of like I think we've seen this with every figure in this wave. Pretty normal stuff there. And then we get our beam sabers. So you get two of the beams, and these are, white plastic that are painted metallic pink, which I like. They're a little bit different. Normally you would get a translucent blade, which I think is fine as well. But these are very much the style for this line, and I think they're all right. So you've got these, and then they of course peg into the beam saber hilts. They look good. They're really big, sized right, very, very bright, vibrant pink. So I do like that. And then we also get the machine gun, which looks really good. It also matches the suit very nicely. Lots of that sort of gunmetal-y black color, and then you've got whites and blues. But this can also use one of the effect pieces. So you can use the actual beam saber beam as a beam, a beam from the rifle, which I do like quite a bit. So it adds a little bit of extra playability there. If you're not using both of these, then you can have this for your gun, which I think is really cool. It's a very easy way to make sure that we have an effect for a gun that otherwise would not have one. So you get, two melee weapons, a gun, two hands, in addition to stuff that isn't technically accessories, but makes for a very, very robust and well-rounded package. I mean, this guy probably has more stuff in the box than any other figure in this line now. So yeah, overall, I'm very happy with the Freedom. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of this suit's design, like in a general sense. It does seem pretty plain when you take into consideration just the base suit. But the railguns, the wings, they make this thing into a lot more, a lot different kind of a Gundam. And I think it looks and translates really nicely into figure form, especially because they went the extra mile to make all of this stuff work and not just leave it at that. They still managed to give us all of the stuff that works functionally on its waist and in the wings, but then still give us the beam saber, still give us the gun, effect pieces, things that interchange between those. So it's a very robust release compared to some of the older stuff in this line. If this figure had come out maybe in Wave 1, I don't think we would have seen the beam sabers in particular, maybe not even the gun, because of how much engineering goes into these wings and these railguns. So this guy is definitely up there for one of the more complete style of figures in the line, and I think they did a really solid job. He may not be my favorite design, but this is a really fun figure. So that's going to do it for this look at the Gundam Universe Freedom Gundam. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.